Hi, so I see you guys are back for more. Good to see. So I got another series going. This one is going to be Fred and Frank. Got some interesting stuff going on here. As I was thinking of this build, I had a couple, parameters that I wanted to get into it. One, I've never done binding before, so I wanted binding. So that doesn't really help much on my idea, except for it's going to have binding. So the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to go less intense on the CNC machine and more on hand tools. Not saying that for the future that's 100% the direction I want to go. I just wanted to have the reference so I can see and go through all the different aspects over the next couple builds where everything has been done either on the CNC or by hand. So I've been through the process both ways everywhere. And then I could decide, what tool is right for which job. So on this particular build, I'm going to be doing templates on the CNC. I'm also, for now, I'm still going to do the fretboard entirely on the CNC. The last guitar I did, I cut all my frets on it, and I did the radiusing by hand. I was off by a little bit, and I had to tweak it, and I totally got it, but it took longer than I thought, and I think I could just be a little bit more precise on that with the CNC. So because the last build I didn't use it, that's the only thing I'm using it for on this one, really. Maybe a couple things, we'll see. So Fred and Frank, why Fred and Frank? Well, let's start with, first off, why is there two names? Well, since I am making my own templates, I got to test my own templates. So it makes the most sense. Two guitars. So Fred is going to be the test guitar. So the first time I use any of the templates, it's going to be on Fred. If it passes the test, the template can get moved over to Frank. If it does not pass the test, I have to figure out how to tweak the template. Of course, I'm not going to be doing 3 guitars so I could test it again, because then it turns into 4 guitars and 5 guitars and 6. So I'll just have to figure out how to fix it, kind of double check with my templates. If I fixed it by enough, commit to it on the other guitar. If it doesn't work, before the template becomes a valid template for the future, I know I still got to tweak. But with a 2 guitar, I should be able to get really accurate on everything, for the second one at least. So, Frank. Short for longer versions. It's not Franklin. It's little hint. We're calling it, you saw in the intro, No Paint Frank. No paint, pretty obvious. Frank, it's a nickname. Frankenstein, yes. This is going to be a Van Halen tribute guitar. It's going to be a Frankenstein, but all the colors are going to be in wood tones. So I'll be using Bubinga for the red, olive wood for the white, and Wenge for the black. So I'll inlay all the stripes on the top. My neck will be made of only those 3 species. Fretboard, the whole guitar is just gonna be those 3 types of wood only. I got some other things that I'm gonna add. They're gonna add to like the Van Halen vibe of the guitar also. So I got Frank. I need another name. Fred and Frank. That's it. That's the thought of Fred. It just started with an F. So I'm going to take you through some of the beginning stuff. I'm not going to get super detailed on some of the prep, making the blanks and stuff like that. So I'm just going to get you right into it. You're going to see a quick shot of this, and I'll come back maybe in between a little bit. Tell you what happened, in case you didn't see it. Well, looks like I got a neck blank here, ready to be glued. I drilled my holes just 64th over 3/8, so I can put these in. So as I glue and I stack them, I'll have 2 pins to stack on, keep everything straight for the gluing. And got this to spread. Let's do it. So how I'm going to do it is, first I got some Limba, got a couple pieces. I already put it together. Didn't make the full blank yet. The core is going to be this. I've never worked with it before. It's supposed to be really good for guitars. It's not overly heavy. So they consider it a tone wood. So that'll be a good core. So I'm taking a Bubinga top. Nothing special Bubinga, but it is book matched. I went thicker. It's almost 3/8 of an inch. Instead of normally tops would be like quarter, but I'm going to inlay into this with stripes of Wenge for the black and stripes of olive wood, not out of this piece, but for the white stripes. And that'll all get inlaid into here, put onto the core. So the stripes will be on the front, and then I'll put binding around it. And I am going to do Wenge binding, I think. Again, I was talking about the guitar A and the guitar B. One thing I wanted to do on this guitar that I haven't done in the past was binding. So when I do the, say, test guitar, practice guitar, you know, I'm going to use regular plastic binding because I've never done it before, and that'll be the easiest to work with. If everything goes really smooth, I'll step it up on No Paint Frank with wood binding. So the whole stripe pattern just on the front up to the binding. There'll be no contours. It won't have a relief here even. It's just going to be a flat top binding, you know, simple type binding like that. And I'm going to use this, which would be a great front of a guitar, but this is going to be the back of the Van Halen. Got a neck blank. So this is the olive wood for the bulk of the neck. And then I got Bubinga and one single Wenge stripe right there in the center. So same three woods that are making the Van Halen pattern on the front of the guitar. But, you know, different percentage of main wood to accent wood. So there's my neck. And all that's left is a fretboard then. So I've got a couple different options. I'm not 100% sure yet which way I'm going to go, but the main thing that I am going to do for sure is instead of putting dot inlays in there on all the single dots, so excluding the 12 and 24, I'm going to go thin. I don't have my dimension yet, but each one will have like 3 to 4 stripes on it in 2 accenting colors to what the fretboard's made out of. So now let's talk about the experimental one. I'm going to do everything first on. I'm not going to finish one guitar and then start the second. It's going to be like I'll do step 1, maybe step 2, and then I'll catch up on the second one, and then I'll do a step or 2, and then I'll catch up, and I won't leapfrog, I'll just keep catching up. So for that one, I am going to do a river for the core, for the main body of the guitar. So I've got 2 sides to pick from. That one has a narrower river, that one wider. So I've got this piece. I made this like a year ago after doing a river table out of walnut, and I had a bunch of eaten up pieces. So I just took, this was actually only like 3 pieces, 4 pieces is this one, 2, 3. Yeah, really it's only 3 pieces and a bunch of small chunks. I just cut them into little over 1/4 inch slices, put them into a mold, filled it all with epoxy. But anyway, it's not gonna stay with the glitter over the whole thing, or maybe it will. So that'll be the front, that'll be the back. The fretboard. What I did on my last build, if you saw the series, I had a stack of Padauk over Wenge. And once you radius it, you go into the other wood. And if you're not perfectly straight, it kind of goes random. It looks really cool. So what I'm going to do with this, I got this piece of Purple Heart that by the time I get this out of there is going to be real thin. This is from resawing it on the bandsaw. This was what was left over from a piece I used. Not thick enough for a fretboard. So I'm going to take this piece of walnut. It's actually, I can't show it to you. It's taped down right now. I'm going to get it where it's flat, but not parallel to the bottom. It's flat enough for gluing. I can glue my good side to it. And then radius this down past where that is left, and then I'll have Purple Heart going into walnut. And it kind of gives it, I call it like a heartwood sapwood type look. But instead of a dark light, it's like 2 different colors. So I got a lot of the purple in the epoxy, so the Purple Heart will be cool. The wood that's in here is walnut, so I went with walnut. So I think that'd be a cool match for that. So all I gotta do is figure out what wood I'm using for the neck itself. And yeah, so I think that about wraps up the plan.
I'm like, that is not that long. I really might know it's got to be at least 5 inches long.
So I guess this is where we wrap up the first episode here. We got a pretty good start. I showed you making the neck blank for Frank, and I showed the top and the back for Frank also. I explained how the body blanks are going to be put together, how the layers work, and I got a pretty good start on the fretboard for Fred. So it seems I did more work to Frank than Fred, and I said everything was starting on Fred. But the reason for that is because that maple piece with the river that goes through it, that was something that was already sitting around. So that was done. The eaten up walnut part with the epoxy that was for Fred was also something that was sitting around. So essentially those were already done. So first I got to make all the pieces so I could put the stuff together before I'm starting to use any of the templates anyway. Once we get to the templated part, Fred will always be ahead of Frank. So that brings us to the end of Fred and Frank episode 1. So thanks for watching, and hope you come back for episode 2.